Hey guys, this is Candle, and welcome to a new Let's Play. I had wanted to wait a little bit longer before I came back. I was trying to get a, well, I was trying to get a new computer monitor that would be 4K and so on, but unfortunately I ran into some difficulties, not the least of which is the current state of things with the world and the coronavirus and everything like that, but I ran into some technical difficulties with my computer that sees it force a reboot at certain seemingly random times. I think it's the GPU. It's either the GPU or the power supply. I don't know which, but considering I still have a GTX 980 Ti that I've had for 5 years, that one might be starting to fail. And I was planning on replacing it sometime soon anyways, so I'll probably see if I can't get that replaced, and if it still doesn't work, then I'll do the power supply. I initially thought it was the CPU was overheating, because that's what these kinds of issues are. It's just random restart, you know, while under load. But, and I checked hardware monitor, and the temperature was spiking at about 88 Celsius that I could see. Like right after the restart, which means it'd cool down a little bit, which I mean isn't great, but it's not like terrible. I think these things are usually set to throttle at like 90 and then actually cut out at 100C. So I got a new CPU cooler because I was still using the original stock Intel cooler, and that saw my temperatures drop. Temperatures are all fine now, and I'm still having this issue, and I've tried it with one of my RAM modules, I've tried it with the other, I've tried it in the individual slots on the motherboard, so I've narrowed it down to one of 3 components: the power supply, the graphics card, or the motherboard. I really hope it's not the motherboard, because if it is, since that's the last one I'm going to replace, by that point I'll have had a brand new computer built, basically. So, anyways, yes, we are playing Chrono Trigger. You see this beautiful FMV right now, done by Akira Yamaoka. Yamaoka, right? I think Yamaoka. Akira Yamaoka, who did the character designs here, and if the art style looks at all familiar, it's because Akira Yamaoka was also the character designer for the Dragon Quest series, and the lead artist behind Dragon Ball and all its various incarnations, manga, anime, everything. So it's been his art style. And this is an amazing game. This is, of course, the PC version, which is the definitive edition to play, now that now that they fixed it shortly after releasing it. Final Fantasy will be coming back soon with Final Fantasy 3, hopefully. I'm just waiting to see if Square fixes what they broke when they patched Final Fantasy 3 on PC. Effectively, what they did was they fixed every issue I had with it, but created some new ones, because the text doesn't stay within the actual text boxes anymore. Even on the menu itself, like the in-game menu, it doesn't stay the way it should. So there's an issue with the font there. I'm waiting to see if they fix that. If not, then we will be doing the PSP version at some point. Now again, this is the PC version of Chrono Trigger. It originally came out 25 years ago on the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom. You can see some scenes will have the black bars because, unfortunately, this game was designed for 4:3, and the 16:9 conversion's not the best. Honestly, I would almost recommend playing this in windowed mode at 1280 by 960, but I do want the full effect here. It does act a little weird sometimes, and I think it's because I have a dual monitor setup. Like, you can see those black bars don't quite go up as high as they should. They're like a pixel off, at least on my display. My preview window, it's fine, but the preview window is smaller, so. But yeah, this is a 16-bit RPG masterpiece, and I've been wanting to play this for you guys for a long time. I've just never gotten around to it. I do not know if I'm going to go ahead and do all of the endings. I do know we will do, like, the main ending and then the expanded one, which ties it into the game's sequel, Chrono Cross, from the PS1. But yes, we are playing this now because of the 25th anniversary, which Japanese release, that anniversary just came up, I think, this past month. And the North American release was in August. I want to say August 15th? I'm not entirely sure. But I'm pretty sure it was sometime in August. I first played this game, oh, I can't even remember how many years ago now. I want to say 15 years ago? Yeah, about 15, yeah, 14, 15 years ago, something like that. And I just stumbled across it. I don't even remember how I found it, but I stumbled across it, and I fell in love with this game, with the world, with the story. This is a game that heavily involves time travel, and it's one of the few video games to actually handle time travel correctly, where there are actually like no plot holes at all, which is very tough to do. Like even noted science fiction authors and visionaries and so on sometimes struggle with time travel. I mean, just look at what Doctor Who does. I mean, that is like all over the place sometimes. And that's a show that's all about time travel. So yeah, it showed the anime FMVs, which were first introduced on the PS1 version, and it showed the original demo from the Super Nintendo version. This is actually based off of the mobile version, which was based off of the the DS version. So it's got that newer translation. So some of the humor is a little bit lost from the original Ted Woolsey translation, but I think most of it still shines through pretty well. You've got New Game Plus here. We're not going to be messing with that right now. But this was one of the first games to actually have a New Game Plus. And the whole thing about that here is the game has multiple endings. And you can get the endings based on where and when you fight the final boss. Like there comes to a certain point, and some of them can only be achieved on New Game Plus. Some of them can be achieved without New Game Plus, but with extreme difficulty, because the boss is always a set difficulty, but if you try to beat him too early, you're going to get your ass handed to you. So anyways, yeah, just taking a look at the settings real quick, display settings. It's at full screen right now, which maximizes it to whatever your native resolution is. For me, that's 1080p, but you can actually change it to, all these are all windowed modes. So there's 1080p, 900p, 768p, and then you got 4:3 resolutions, because again, this game was for the Super Nintendo. It was originally meant to be presented in 4:3, which is why certain scenes have black bars, because certain scenes don't actually extend beyond what was really visible. But yeah, the 4:3 resolutions go all the way up to 960. I think this is bounded by your screen's native resolution. So if this was on a 1440p or a 4K monitor, those 4:3 resolutions might go higher, or at least the 16:9 ones should, I think. I don't know exactly, because I can't really test it. But you've also got 720p, 1024 by 768, and then the lowest is 800 by 600, which is a little strange that they do that, because that's not a perfect integer scaling from the original 240p that the Super Nintendo output at. But let's just be sure there. So you got controls. You can play with mouse and keyboard, or you can play with gamepad. I would prefer the gamepad, although some of it is a little bit odd, because again, this was originally made for a Super Nintendo controller, and so the button placements are a little bit different. A, B, and are switched. X, Y are switched. And then you got like all these extras as well that came back from the PS1 version. You can check out like all the different FMVs that are in here. You can check some illustrations and concept art. You can see the different endings you've unlocked, and you can do a sound test as well, listening to some of the awesome music. Music in this game was produced by Yasunori Mitsuda. And, I mean, he worked himself to the bone for this game. I mean, he gave himself an ulcer and got, like, violently ill. And, oh my god, he really worked himself to the bone for this. And this was, part of the thing was, this was one of the first big projects he was allowed to work on at Squaresoft back in the day. And he was basically told by Hironobu Sakaguchi, who was the co-director on this with Enix's Yuji Horii, who was responsible for Sakaguchi being responsible for Final Fantasy and Yuji Horii being responsible for Dragon Quest. There's a reason why they called this the Dream Team back in the day. But basically, Mitsuda was told by Sakaguchi that if he did well on this game, he might be allowed to work on an upcoming Final Fantasy title. And Mitsuda really wanted to score a major project like Final Fantasy, but unfortunately, I'm not sure that ever actually happened. He might have contributed some tracks here and there, but I don't think he was ever primary composer on any of them, because I know Nobuo Uematsu was the only composer on Final Fantasies 1 through 9, and primary composer on 10, and thereafter he just contributed key tracks on occasion, because he kind of got burnt out. I mean, he did basically 10 games in 10 years, or in like 12 years, something like that, so it was kind of rough for him. But yeah, anyways, I think we're finally ready to start the game. Unfortunately, there is no voice acting, so you gotta listen to my dulcet tones the entire time. And I am getting over a cold right now. I still have the sniffles. It's nothing serious. It's nothing bad. Okay, I've been on vacation the past week, so I've been able to self-isolate very well. And I don't have a fever. I don't have any other symptoms that could be construed for COVID-19. So I'm very glad about that, because I have to go back to work probably on Sunday. I doubt my boss is going to give me the day off Sunday. If I'm lucky, maybe Sunday, but probably a day or two after that, because I work in a grocery store. That's my day job. So yeah, I don't really get time off for this. I just happen to already be on vacation when all this shit started going down. So yes, let's go ahead and start a new game here. And so you can see basic controls. So we got A, B, X, Y, left bumper, right bumper, as well. Why is there not a button set up for opening the map? I don't know. Should be able to. We have two different battle modes, just like Final Fantasy. You have active and wait. This is kind of an extension of Final Fantasy 4 through 9's active time battle system, but it's a little bit different. And you can also choose between the original graphics and the quote-unquote high-resolution graphics. I would not recommend these. I'll show you why in a little bit. But I would not recommend these because it is a very poor filter that basically makes it look like your screen is smeared with Vaseline. So you can also choose between gamepad keyboard and touchpad or mouse. Again, this is a port of the mobile version, so touchpad is still involved. So if you have a touchpad on your Windows tablet or Windows laptop, then you can play it that way if you want. Or if you have a high-end graphics tablet as well, you can use that as well if you like. And I don't have either of those. So we're going to stick with this, and I think we're going to use wait. I always prefer wait because it's a little bit more strategic. Basically what happens is on active, time flows constantly, as it says right at the bottom. But while on wait, time stops, which means enemies do not attack when you're selecting text or items. That helps you slow things down so that you can keep a better eye on it and do strategies and so on. So yes, let's go ahead and start. I am not a fan of changing characters' default names whenever they are presented. Some games don't actually show the default character name in the game itself. They end up having them in like the manual or whatever, like Soul Blazer, the main character's name is technically Blazer, but it's not in the game. Secret of Mana, the main character's name I think is Rand, but it's not in the original Super Nintendo version. It is in the 3D remake, however. I don't know why. But anyways, yes, we're going to stick to the defaults. Unfortunately, some technical limitations are still in effect here from the Super Nintendo, which is why Chrono is spelled without an H. I believe it was originally supposed to have an H, but they had to limit character names up to 5 characters, 5 individual letters and so on. So that's why for that. So yes, I do want to accept Chrono. Ah, look at that beautiful majesty in 16:9, 1080p. Oh, this is amazing. So yeah, there's some kind of festival going on. Yeah, Chrono Trigger kind of handles world maps a little bit differently than, say, Final Fantasy, but we'll see that in a minute. Chrono. Chrono. Chrono, are you still sleeping? Come on, sleepyhead. It's time to get up. Dear me, I'd forgotten how beautiful Lean's bell sounds. Yeah, look at Chrono in his bed. You must have been so excited about the Millennial Fair that you couldn't sleep last night, could you? Well, you'd better not let that giddiness get you into any trouble. I want you to behave yourself today. Come on now, out of bed with you. So yeah, you can see this is another scene that does not feature proper 16 to 9 support. I don't know why they couldn't just extend it, because the black of the environment, you know, outside the room is not actually a black, as you can tell by the black bars. For some reason, it is an off black, and a lot of Super Nintendo games did this. A lot of Super Nintendo RPGs, like I think Final Fantasy VI had a blue tint to most environments outside of the actual environment itself, you know, in the void, whereas this one seems to have a little bit of a reddish tint, and I don't know why. But yes, let's take a look at our menu system real quickly. As you can see, it fits perfectly into 16 by 9. Yes, our equipment is very, very basic. We're at level 1 here. We've got a wooden sword, a hide cap, a hide tunic, and a headband. And if you're wondering why the individual item things here are not pixelated, that is because that is the, high-resolution graphics. Even with the original graphics, there are still some situations where you can't avoid the quote-unquote high-resolution ones. And honestly, in these situations, it doesn't look too bad. It does kind of mishmash against like the pixelated character portrait and text and everything, but it's not too bad. So here we got our inventory as well. You can check it out. We got nothing though. Nothing, because equipped items do not show up in the inventory. And you can sort the list as well, different techs. So you can see that's our first tech. This entire list here will slowly fill out, but the next one doesn't show up until you've learned the previous one. So techs are basically skills in this game, and we will be checking out other things soon enough. Party, we only have our 1 party member at right now, but there are a total of 6 permanent party members and a 7th optional one. And the canon ending, I believe, has him becoming part of your party, but anyways, battle, let's go ahead and change things up to fast and fast. There we go, keep that on actions, help messages. Okay, sound, keep that maxed. Original, okay, now I'll show you what the high resolution looks like. That's what the high resolution looks like. That is not good. That looks like everything is just smeared. So that is not a good filter to use for this game, and I don't know why the studio that ported this over decided to do that, because I don't think this was handled in-house by Square Enix themselves. But for some reason, that's what they decided to do. Anyways, we have a bookmark, which allows you to temporarily suspend the game. I think that sends you back to the main menu, and this save is then erased as soon as you load it back up. So it's basically like you can save anywhere, but as soon as you load it up, that save is erased. So you still want to use the actual save points and save on the world map and so on. But anyways, we are moving onward. It's about time. By the way, you're going to see... Oh dear, what was her name? That young inventress friend of yours. Wait, seriously, you can't remember your son's best friend's name? I mean, it's not like he's extremely young and they haven't been friends for years. But yes, this is Luca, one of the 3 female party members. You have 3 female, 2 male, 1 robot, and then 1 optional male. So yes, let's go ahead and go Luca. That's right, Luca. You're going to stop by and see your new invention at the fair, aren't you? Well, run along then and be back before dinner. And you also have this kitty cat here. I love kitty cats. There was a long-standing rumor that your cat would eventually run away if you don't feed it. I don't think that's actually true. I don't think I've ever actually seen that happen. But basically, I think that's supposed to be cat food. Anyways. Oh, I almost forgot. Here's your allowance, dear. Have fun at the fair. Obtained 200G. and G is basically gold. That is your money in this game. So yes, this is the overworld of the game, and believe it or not, very, very few actual locations, very few buildings and so on can you actually see the outside of, other than what's visible from the overworld. As a matter of fact, I can only think of 2, and one of those is exclusively in a cutscene. Actually, no, both of those are exclusively in the cutscenes. So, well, no, I think one is exclusively in a cutscene. The other one has a cutscene that shows you the full thing, but then you can actually move around on it afterwards. But yeah, basically that's how it works here. And if you want to see, there we go. That's the map. So I just love that they show the map at a 1-to-1 scale here too versus pixels. So that is like full resolution. That's the entire world map. Now notice how at the bottom it says 1000 AD. That's the world as it is in 1000 AD. This is a time travel game, so we'll be seeing it in different eras. So you can see we have quite a bit to explore here, but there's only so far we can go right now. Like we're pretty much locked to the western 2 continents. The one we're currently on is Xenon. I don't remember what the lower one is called. I don't even think it has a name. The only reason we really know Xenon's name, I think, is because of Chrono, which takes place in the El Nido archipelago, which is not shown on this map, but is located somewhere between that southwestern continent and that island between that and the northwestern continent. So it's kind of like almost in that it's in that sea in between the 3 there, the western continents and the central one. It's like right in that sea somewhere. But yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look around here, because I'm always learning new things about these games. It's hard to believe our kingdom has stood for 1,000 years now. Our king is the 33rd descendant to the throne of Guardia. It's a miracle he can manage to rule the kingdom when he can't even keep his own daughter in hand. She's probably throwing a fit at the castle this very moment, demanding he let her go to the fair. Well, why wouldn't he let her go to the fair? I mean, just send her with some protection. But yes, despite it being 1000 AD and like BC and stuff like that, the calendar here is not actually based around the birth of Christ. It's based around the birth of the Kingdom of Guardia, so it should be more like, I mean, you could say AD as in, I mean, that's Latin for Anno Domini, or the Year of Our Lord. That could still theoretically work, except there's no Latin in this world because there's no Rome. But BC doesn't quite work because there's no before Christ. And there's like no organized religion at all in this world, at least not among the humans. There is among the monsters, but that's another story entirely. Excuse me. I've been resting my throat a lot this week because I didn't want to end up with a sore throat. But yeah, they could have done BG before Guardia. But anyways, we have the truce in here. And yeah, there's no town map either. You been to the fair yet? No, I haven't. What? What are you doing here then? You'll have to wait 1,000 years for another millennial fair. The festivities are in Lean Square, just up north. More tents and stalls than you can shake a stick at. So yeah, this exists in a weird technological era where you've got certain modern-ish things like pianos, which I think are like, oh god, pianos are like several hundred years old. Okay, that's not the issue, but if you go back to the house, you'll see like they have refrigerators, and those are like maybe 100 years. I know they had ice boxes like 150 years ago, but modern refrigerators I think only started showing up in, I want to say, like the 30s? Maybe the 20s, maybe. But really only, I want to say, like 30s and 40s was when they started, you know, producing regular refrigerators. And we've got like guns and stuff and like decently high technology here, except everything else feels medieval. Anyways, let's go ahead and say yes to this guy, even though we haven't been. Incredible, isn't it? The shops, the events, I've never seen a festival like it. Excuse me, I had to cough again. Lodging is 10G. Would you like to stay for the night? No, I don't need to. Let me know if you change your mind. Welcome, welcome. Make yourself at home. I suppose you won't be staying long, though. Oh, I hope my shift ends soon. I want to go to the fair, too. Say, can you spare 10G to buy me a drink? Sure, why not? Thanks, let me play you a song in return. Oh, it's a beautiful song. So yeah, some of the music in here is a bit melancholy as well. Oh, and I can't actually talk to her again. Okay. Remember that earthquake we had the other day? No. What earthquake? You're an oblivious one, aren't you? Well, never mind then. Wait, seriously? You're not gonna... Okay, let's say yes this time. We've been having far too many lately. Hope it's not a sign of something bad about to happen. Not necessarily about to happen. I'd say about, like, almost 1,000 years later. This box has been handed down for generations. Should you somehow manage to open it, you are welcome to the contents. A mysterious force seals it shut. So yeah, you'll find boxes like this kind of scattered around 3 different eras. You'll find them in 600 AD, 1000 AD, and 2300 AD. The ones in 2300 AD you can open up like no matter what, whenever you find them, like once you actually have that ability, which comes like, I want to say midway through the game. The ones in 1000 AD, you do not want to immediately open up as soon as you can. You want to go open them in 600 AD because you can reseal them, and when you come open them up in 1000 AD, they will actually be stronger. Whereas, if you open them up in 1000 AD without doing it first in 600, then they are still the same 600 AD versions. However, if you take the item in 600 AD, then the box is empty in 1000 AD. Again, time travel. But what you can do is, because this game operates under the time traveler's immunity trope, which means that anything a time traveler does doesn't cause a paradox, basically. It just kind of changes the timeline. This game doesn't operate with multiple timelines, at least not in this one. Chrono Cross, I think, deals with that a little bit, but this one, it's all one timeline. You're just kind of going back and forth between it, and changes reflect back and forth. But if you open it up in 1000 AD and take it, you can still go back and open it up in 600 AD because you haven't taken it yet. The question is then, what happens to the box in 1000 AD? Well, it's already been opened. You can't go back and put the box in. Now, you don't lose the item because of paradox and stuff like that. Anyways, moving on. Let's check out the Mayor's Manor. This is actually what gives you a lot of beginning tutorials for this game. Hello, is this your first visit? Would you like me to tell you about the house? Sure, why not? Our mayor has a soft spot for adventures. He has established this manor as a library of adventuring know-how. The contents of the chests in this house were placed by him for adventurers to use. Feel free to take anything you'd like. I could run through the tutorials, but I don't really feel like it. I do want to talk to these guys, though, so this one just tells you about walking and running. I can teach you about weapons and armor. No, thank you. There are items in here, though, so I do want those. Obtain potion. Would you like an explanation of how to use menus? No, I think I know how to do that. Scattered throughout the world, yada yada. These are save points, although this one is not real. There'll be a little chime when you actually walk into a real one. You walk around while reading messages, but go too far away and you won't hear the person talking anymore. I don't know why they implemented that, but it's kind of neat. You can toggle the position of the message window by pressing X, which can help, but I don't need to worry about that right now. Shelters are quite useful. I don't need to know about them. They're basically tents or cottages or whatever from Final Fantasy. Would you like an explanation of how to use menus? I already talked to you. I forgot. Okay, up we go. This is all combat stuff, I think. Teach you about text. I don't need to learn. We'll explain it in a bit. Basics of battle commands. No, thank you. Share some insight? Sure, why not? I can tell you've got potential. You'll learn a number of skills or techs as you fight more battles. Techs are special attacks that utilize your weapons as well as your own innate potential, but mastering them requires repeated practice and training. Keep at it. Alright, there's an item here, got 100 G. Want to learn about types of status ailments? Nah. Hold down left bumper and right bumper to escape from battle. He who fights and runs, yada yada. Okay. I don't need to know about the rest of that, thank you. Alright. Well then. Onward we go. So here we have the market. There's not really anything worth buying right now. Of course, he's actually in Lean Square. And we can continue exploring around. It's kind of interesting to try to go to Guardia Castle this early on, but I don't really feel a need to. I just want to check out this residence, then we'll go to the square. That girl Luca was over in the square going on about how she'd made the discovery of a lifetime. But yeah, see, they have a refrigerator, they have working plumbing, they have a stove and an oven, and they have clocks. Now, clocks, again, those are like, I want to say like several hundred years old, was when they invented clocks, if not older. But, well, I mean, technically clocks of some form or another have been around for thousands of years. But actual mechanical clocks have only been around for a few hundred, I want to say, like maybe like 500 at most. I'm not entirely sure. But it's still weird that they have refrigerators, which implies they have electricity. And you don't really see like anything else that implies electricity other than refrigerators and ovens, and that's just like in the 1000 AD. Something tells me I'm as happy now as I'll ever be. Oh, gee. Don't tell me that. Okay, so now it's finally time to go to Lean Square. Welcome to the hub of this world. Actually, no, not really. But it is a lot of fun. I need to check something real quick, sorry.